Yeah.
Next door had to.
I understand. No worries.
I don't think. So go ahead.
All right. I think we're ready. 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool. And Jonathan, today we've got a special guest all the way from across the pond with us today. Of course, I guess if our listeners are on that side of the pond, it's not really across the pond for the listener. So I don't know. At least for us, they're across the pond, right? So This is our second week in a row, second episode in a row.
Second episode in a row. In a row.
We just ran out of people in the U.S. Is that what happened?
That's right. Now we're on to...
Or we got blacklisted. I don't know. Next thing you know, we'll be doing Russian guests or something. Yeah. We did have that
all
one
the way from Iran.
We did have that one from Transylvania, the young kid.
That's true. Yeah.
So we're international, baby.
We're international. Absolutely. I think we had somebody from Australia where they were like, it was like 3 a.m. their time.
They were in their laundry room.
Oh yeah. We don't care. We just, as long as they're, as long as they're awake. I think this guy was having coffee. When we did that,
hiding from his wife to be quiet. So,
all right. We've got a great guest. We've got a great book I picked up a few weeks ago called WonderWords, Simple Words for Influence and Persuasion by Len Foster. Great little reference guide if you're in sales of any sort, or whether it's phone sales, or if you're doing face-to-face sales, whatever. It's just a great reminder of words that you want to use. I think we've had guest experts in the past that talk about the importance of language and the types of words that you use when you're having those conversations, and then the words to avoid also. So we'll be touching on that.
Yeah, I was actually like, for me, just because I'm in the business, or was in the business for 15 years, like the first section was like, I know a lot of these, but then I got to the words never to use. I like that section.
Yeah, I did too.
Oh yeah.
That was my favorite, because I'm like,
a good reminder.
I'm violating a few of these.
Exactly.
So I need to avoid that. But yeah, it's a great little reference tool. Some of these I like write down or jot in my notes tab. I don't know about you, Sean, but I like to, take some of these reminders and just put in the little Apple Notes tab, like daily reminder, avoid this.
All right, let's do a little intro and bring him on.
Yeah. So I've got I've got Len's bio pulled up here. As I mentioned, our guest today is Len Foster. He is an author, a business consultant specializing in customer acquisition and retention through referral marketing and customer experience. Over the years, he's written and published several successful books, and he brings real hands-on experience to the table. So his mission is very simple. It's to help businesses not just attract clients, but also to turn them into loyal advocates. So he offers strategies that can give you a competitive edge by focusing on what really matters, and that is creating long-term relationships that fuel sustainable growth. So with that said, let's welcome Len Foster to the show.
Love the applause.
Yes. Yeah.
Was that a shock? Did we shock you, Len?
Yeah, I thought that was a lot of applause for two guys there. It's a bit special.
Oh, we've got all these people tuning in. You can see us.
There's a live studio audience out there, sort of, kind of.
But nice to be here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. Excited to have you. Thanks for staying up late on a Friday night. Over in the UK. So.
It's only 8 o'clock in the UK. It's no problem. It's not even finished work time yet. So
good. Yeah, like I said, you still got some work left.
Plenty to do.
Glad to hear you're still working at 8 o'clock on a Friday. That does my soul well.
Yeah. There's, like I said, a lot to do. So just got to do it as simple as that. Yeah. So.
Well, give the list. We're going to do our beverages here in just a second, Len. But give our listeners a little teaser of something or why they might want to stick around.
Well, from the book, there's one of the things I've taught a lot of people, and I'm a massive advocate of, is just two simple words of thank you and what you can actually do with those. You would be surprised how much leverage you can get out of those two words in for different industries, for different situations, and how it can make you memorable, be an advertisement for you, um, just with two words. So it's worth kind of sticking around for.
Two
I like
words. I like it.
Yep.
Very nice. We'll go through these quick. Now, Lynn, you did tell me, as Jonathan was off doing whatever he was doing just before we got on the air, you're not having a drink, but you do have a favorite beverage. And for some people, it might
Yes.
be visiting the UK or want to find a UK, one of their big box liquor stores or whatever. What is the go-to beer that you loved for 30, 40 years?
In in the Midlands, there's a place called Burton-on-Trent, and it's famous for beer, for a company called Bass, another one Ansell's, another one Marsden's, and the very first drink of beer, a bitter, that I ever had in a local pub was Marsden's Best Bitter, and that was what normal people drank. And then there was this level above, which called Marsden's Pedigree, which was a few percentage stronger. And that has been my sort of tipple of choice any and everywhere I could ever get that. We've even discarded really nice pubs and restaurants just because they didn't sell that and somewhere else did. So it's excellent. It's one of those, it has a taste. It's the head stays on, the head slides down the glass as you drink it. It's just everything you would want in a good pint of bitter, if you will.
Yeah. So
that's been my tipple of choice for many a year.
Yeah. So you made it for life with that one. Once you tasted, you were in for life.
Locked in.
Yeah. Anything else was, I don't know. It was one level up from water. After you'd sort of had Marsden's, it was like you don't go back.
Go find that.
Yeah, you don't go back from that.
I want to say we've had a Marsden on the podcast.
You might have.
Yeah.
Jonathan, what do you have?
Well, a lot of the camera people in camera, as in Campaign for Real Ale, in the UK, drink that as well. It is when it's kept properly, because it's a draft as well. When it's kept properly, it is just real nice stuff.
Yep, I'm gonna have to go find it now. We've got a store here that does international brews, so yeah. All right, Jonathan, you got a Founders Brewing.
I do.
Is that root beer? It looks like a root beer bottle.
This is a hazelnut fudge, Sean. This would be something right up your alley.
It would be.
Founders Brewing hazelnut fudge. I've never seen this one before, but I found it today. It says, discover a new level of indulgence with KBS hazelnut fudge, crafted for the discerning palate. The aromas of hazelnut coffee intertwined with the velvety smooth embrace of fudge coffee and chocolate. This is just right up our alley, Sean. So
yeah, this is almost a Christmas beer right here, but
12%, which is, I'm surprised that I found it.
Yeah. The last hurrah before summer.
Exactly.
Before the revenge of the IPAs.
That's right. They're going to come in full force. You won't see many 12% ABVs in the summertime. So I'm looking forward to this. I've already had a sip, and it should be very good.
All right. Well, on my end, I have one of my favorite breweries, Tupps Brewery, and we've got a full-grown Scallywag Imperial Stout. So, Jonathan, you and I are around the same spot. So, Len may be running the show here pretty soon.
That's gonna be running.
I couldn't find anything from the brewer on this one. It is 12.1%. On Beer Advocate, it's got a 91 rating, which is pretty darn good. But here's what one of the reviewers said, which I felt like they should probably write copy for the company.
Yeah.
Pours an effervescent mahogany with 3 billowy fingers of caramel colored head, 0 head retention and lacing. coconut in spades, some roastiness, vanilla latte, plenty of coconut, some vanilla, and a little mocha up front. Coconut and a touch of warming booze once warm, plus a little mocha and dryness, plus a little cola. Finishes a little dry with a
Wow.
toasty coconut, plus a little rum and cola.
Plus,
So, I don't know.
plus.
Seems like he was already drunk when he wrote that one. So, but we'll see. But yeah, I love Tubbs Brewery. Got the full grown Jack, the full grown Saint Nick, and all that whole thing that we've had on the show before. So
yeah. Oh man.
All right.
That
Cheers
sounds
it
really
up.
good.
Real
Cheers.
quick.
Len, we feel like we're leaving you out, man. I'm sorry.
Show must go on.
Looks pretty good at 12% as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead, Jonathan. Give it a quick
That's
rating.
why I'm only having one. This is really good. I'm going to give it I'm going to give a solid 4.7. Very good.
I like that. I'll give a 4.75 on mine. Pretty much what he said. It does have a little bit of that little coconut, a little toffee or something. Technically, it's coconut vanilla imperial stout. So
that sounds amazing. I might have to get the link to that.
Yeah, almost got that little, that coconut and vanilla gives a little beach vibe, even though it's a imperial stout.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, Len,
Len,
before
over to you.
Yeah, we're going to turn it over to you. Before we get into the topic of the book, why don't you give us a little background on yourself? You're consulting. You've been in business a long time. Kind of tell us about yourself and what led you to write this particular book on WonderWords.
Okay. My strange it sounds, given where I am now, my career started off in construction. Literally, as we say in this country, on the tools as a carpenter. We call them joiners or chippies.
Yeah. So does Sean.
I was a handyman. I was a handyman before I was a copywriter. So must be the secret.
Yeah. I ended up in that after working in that industry for literally years and years, and ended up running projects, multi-million-pound projects, and everything that went with them. And I think that's where my first experience of trying to persuade people to do things they didn't necessarily want to do or they didn't see as in their best interests particularly started. But I've been in that industry for many, many, many years. And in the end, around about 2008, I just had enough. That was it. Me and that industry had just done. So I then looked at something different totally, and I trained and became a life coach. And within that particular sort of niche, I needed to learn how to market that, to sell it, and all this kind of thing. So that led to becoming, with the same company, funnily enough, an internet marketing coach, digital marketing coach, and then get into social media, and eventually doing that for other clients and things like that. And so it's gone through a certain series of steps, if you will, that were kind of logical up until then doing sales training workshops and speaking gigs and stuff like that, which came about with referrals and came out LinkedIn training, things like that. And that sort of took me up to the first book, which was in about 2013, and that was on time management, as it happened. And then from 2013 to 16, I think I wrote four books. First one, time management. Second, referrals. Third one, WonderWords. And then the fourth one was a book called Maximum Sales, Minimum Selling. That was the first one that ever got to a sort of number one spot on Amazon for its particular category. And those, believe it or not, that the title of Maximum Sales, Minimum Selling, there's a lot of psychology in that. And if I quickly tell you that everybody wants to get the most for the least. So the most return for the least work. So consequently, the title of the book was Maximum Sales, Minimum Selling. And then the 7 steps for opening doors and closing sales. Everyone said, I'm okay once I get my foot in the door. It's just doing that. So we do, and everybody likes to work on steps. They can see things more clearly when they work on steps. So we said 7 steps to opening doors, closing sales, and my target market was people who hated selling. They got a really nice, good product or service, but hated selling. So it was for non-sales people, and that's why the title and the subtitle were exactly as they are. And I did a workshop for non-sales people, sales training based on that, as well as. So that's just a little insight into that book, but it's a little psychology that goes along to people when they see something that says for non-sales people. From a copy point of view, wanting to say,
Nobody,
"Oh,
very few,
that's me."
yeah,
Kind of
very few
thing.
people want to be a salesperson. That's a pretty rare person that wants to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, with the maximum sales, minimum selling, did that like come to you in a flash? Did you like really work on it and try to craft it, or like how did that come to you?
To be honest with you, the book itself was written on experiences that what I'd done in the past. So the 7 steps, 7 stages of the sales process, right from prospecting, or I call looking in the right direction, because most people are totally looking at a market that they're never going to sell in the first place. They're talking to prospects. Same with networking, they're talking to prospects. The prospect wants a car and they're selling cake. It's never going to work unless you actually understand who your avatar is, who your target market is, your ideal client, call them what you will. So I took people through this process, and I used this process when I was in construction to find out about who we were going to meet for tender meetings, all this kind of thing. Likewise with the coaching, all that stuff. And so I put these processes down in writing, and then myself and a guy called Charlie Hutton had a bit of a heads up on what we should call this book, and it came down to that title. What shall we call it? What's going to appeal to people? It's for non-sales people, so what shall we? And then that's where maximum sales, minimum selling. Get the most from the least. But everybody wants to do that.
Yeah.
But then to show them an exact target market for non-sales people. That was the whole thing, and it was very easy to go to networking groups and things like that. In those groups are all people who've got products, services. All of them, about 90%, like you said, hate selling, are totally fear rejection. They don't like that. They don't even like asking for referrals because they don't want to come over as seeming needy and pushy and all this kind of thing. And I've taught them in the past that the easiest way to get referrals is, I know it's going to sound daft, but not to ask for referrals. If you want a referral, you don't ask for a referral, you simply ask for an introduction instead. And that makes it psychologically, it makes it so much easier for the other person to introduce you, because there's no onus. There's no, in the back of someone's mind, I'm going to introduce this person to my colleague, trusted colleague, so he can sell them something. There's none of that kind of thing. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
So you ask for an introduction, not referral.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I never thought of that, because referral just kind of has this weight to it that
like you feel like you have to. There's more to it than just introduction. There's more. You almost have to help them get the business, right?
Well, the thing is, when you look at it, with a referral, you're dining out on someone else's reputation.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Now, you can ruin 2 things. You can ruin your relationship with the person you're being referred to, and their relationship with someone you might have known for 10 years. But an introduction, that takes the pressure off. You can stand back a pace, say, look, I don't know whether you two can work together, but it seems like you're a web developer, you're a graphic designer, and you literally do graphic design for websites. I think it's worth you two having a chat, rather than I'm referring you to this person. But so there's no onus, there's no pressure on it whatsoever. So that's just an aside kind of thing. But but that was why the book was given the title it was in the first place.
Yeah,
very nice. So for us today on the show, it'd be maximum ABV, minimum glasses, right?
Yeah.
One glass is
So
all you need.
So you wrote this book previously, the one on sales with minimal effort,
Yeah.
and then the
WonderWords was
recent.
written first.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was written first,
Mm-hmm.
and that was effectively because the words that I used in when I was doing coaching, also certain terms I always noticed that worked or didn't work. So, for example, when you're doing appraisals, when you're doing staff appraisals, you can really sort of big somebody up and just say to them, I don't know, for example, Jonathan, the work you did last year was brilliant. There's a couple of things that I just really liked, but there's a couple of things I think you could improve on. The moment I said but, it kind of killed the compliment that went before it.
Yeah.
But if I turn around and say exactly the same thing, you did some great work last year, a couple of things were just amazing. And I'd just like to share a couple of things that I think can actually take you up a notch further.
Yeah.
The and
Yeah.
carries it through, the but kills it stone dead. So there were things like that that I noticed and I used. And then likewise in the selling of coaching, because a lot of people will tell you they need to lose weight, they need to stop smoking, they need to all sorts of things, relationships. But when it comes to actually saying, I need a life coach, there's this mental thing that says, I don't need anybody telling me how to run my life. What? Why should I? Even though 2 seconds ago they were telling you that they were distraught because they've been 15, 20 pounds overweight for ages and they feel terrible about themselves. So to get over that, we'd use things like, I would like sort of, okay, fine. Just let me take you forward about 6 months and imagine tell me what you look like then. Imagine what you look like then. Tell me what's that? How are you feeling? So you're using the imagine word to get them to picture themselves in a position, a state, an image, wearing something that they wanted to wear, how they looked when they got married, if it was a woman, all this kind of thing. And if you tie that in with using their language, in other words, VAK, sort of visual, auditory, kinesthetic, if they are constantly saying to you, yes, I see what you mean, and kind of identifying themselves as visual, then by saying, imagine what this would look like it kind of takes them there. It's easy for them to do that because they're a visual kind of person. So that's where the words and things came from, and just picking them up from various things. And there's stuff that I've read as well, and I looked at that and thought that's actually good, but I'll put this take on it because this sounds, this works for me, kind of thing. So that's how that came about.
Yeah, I'm gonna point out one in your book, and this is because some of these are very familiar, like feel, felt, found. I think a lot of people might be familiar with that one, but here's one that I really like is because sometimes when we get objections from customers or prospects out there, our tendency is to want to correct them or to set them in place. But I really like what you say is to use the word I agree and would add. So sometimes you diffuse an argument or you kind of like you really shock them when you agree with them because they're expecting you to come back with an argument. So you might agree with them, but then add. So talk about that one, because that's really, to me, that's really important. That's the one that stuck out the most to me.
The I agree and would add, and you can also use I see your point.
Yep.
I see your point entirely, and I'll also add you can use that in the same breath, kind of thing, in the same situation. But like you said, the worst thing you can do is tell somebody they're wrong, because automatically, they're no, I'm not. You got a fight in your hands straight away. It comes straight from the brain, right out.
And I know very successful salespeople that have literally burned bridges where they've like just
Oh.
because they've argued with people. I mean, and they're actually pretty good people. I mean, they're pretty successful, but yet they will they're so convinced by what they believe that they will just burn down a connection, burn a relationship with argumentative
Or
language.
marriage.
I had,
yeah.
I still have a friend, and he's in network marketing.
Yeah.
And he will literally walk up to people and he'll just ask you your name. And then the moment he knows your name, he'll start telling you about the product or service or whatever they do with no care whatsoever, whether it's of any interest to you at all.
Wow.
And when I said to him, yeah, I
A lot of self-awareness
what
there,
you
right?
are. You could be an architect, you could be a portrait painter.
Yeah. It
wouldn't make any difference to him whatsoever. There's just no filters at all.
Right. Yeah.
And when I said to him, why did you do that? You don't even know if they want it. Well, if they don't want this, they must be daft. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I get that now. I'll probably not talk to you about that again. Yeah. But the thing is, like you say, it disarms people. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Well, they must be stupid if they don't want this.
Of course.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, that's. You ever thought of selling cars? But the thing is, when you disarm people by saying, "Yeah, I agree with you," yeah, especially when someone says that's really expensive.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, I agree with you. It is.
Mm-hmm.
I would add this though. There's a good reason for that. You just give me 30 seconds. I'll explain to you exactly why.
Mm-hmm.
It's that disarming thing of I agree with you because they're expecting straight away.
Yeah.
The objective to come back with something. No, it's not. It's the best thing on the market. It's the most competitive. It has the most features, the most benefits. It's got a great warranty. They're expecting that kind of thing, probably because they've seen it before, had it before. But when you just say, "Yeah, I agree with you,"
yeah, I like that approach, because I've always said, like, when somebody objects, that I would always say, I can see why you would see it that way from that perspective, or something along those lines. But even at that, you're kind of undermining, like, it's a subtle way of saying, I can see it. When you're saying that, you're like, but you're still wrong, you know?
It feels,
eventually
like
you've got to come to the point where the bit that says he or she's saying I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can see why you'd say it like that, but whatever you say after is still going to come over as, but you're wrong.
Yep.
So it's with just saying I agree and would add.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just adding something to the bit where I tell you right in the first place. I'm not taking away from it anything from it, not detracting from your original point of view, if you will. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, it does. I usually try to tell a joke there sometimes. I've tested all kinds of different things, but one thing I've done is I'll say the price, and I'll wait, and they'll either gasp or they'll say, "Wow, that's a lot," and I'll be like, "Well," especially if they gasp, I'll be like, "Were you hoping it'd be more?" And they're like,
"Yeah,
no." But I like that. I like I agree and would add. So then you can get into your reason that it's worth that or whatever. But yeah, I think the one I like that I naturally use the most is, I don't say a bit, but I say I'm curious a lot when I'm trying to do, like, really trying to pull stuff out of people and get them to share more.
Well,
I'll say
the
I'm
thing
curious.
is, when someone objects to something, naturally, rather than going back to them, they give an objection. It's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than trying to defend your price, if you then say things just as simple as, "Interesting. What makes you say that?" They then got to think of something else to come back with. They're not going to say the same thing again. They just won't repeat. It's too expensive again. They'll say something else which will take you to a little bit closer to the real reason for the objection anyway. And it's very, very soft. It's not aggressive, but you can make it even softer by saying, just out of curiosity, what makes you say that?
Mm-hmm.
And it really, really softens things. And if you do it in the tone of voice that's down there and not, so what makes you say that? If you go away from that and say, just out of curiosity, what makes you say that? Then you start to get to the real reason for the objection in the first place. And usually with price, it's because they've either seen something else that was similar to, and they've related to that, and they've looked at the two things, and then they've looked at price. And a lot of the times, if that happens, you've got to look at how much value you put onto the thing before the price came up.
Yeah.
Or in them, like I said, in their mind, whatever you've quoted as a price, you haven't built the value up sufficiently for that price to look lower than the value they're going to get. That tends to work like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I use that phrase, I'm a bit curious, or I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
I use it early on too, just to try to get them to expand on whatever they might have just said. So if they just tell me, some fact I ask about, and I'm like, well, I'm curious. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And they'll,
exactly.
Same kind of thing. Just Jonathan and I would call that probably like the Columbo close. I don't know if you're
scratching the
Columbo.
Yes, well, that's one of the great things that is just at the end of something, when people think, so okay, and then just one more thing, and that was Columbo just as he's going out the door.
Yeah,
just one more thing. And that was always the killer. Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you go to the taco stand that day? Yeah.
When you're wearing a t-shirt,
very subtle.
Yeah, when you're wearing a t-shirt that says "I hate tacos," why was that you went to the?
That's when you know he's got you.
It catches them off guard too, because I think, okay, everything's done, and then that's when you slide this one.
Slide this one. And that just sort of works like that. It works with objections as well when you've answered things. And it's just one thing I'm curious what, and you can come back in and actually, believe it or not, you can close a deal using that. It's quite easily, just because you catch people off guard, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, ethically and all that kind of thing.
Right. So let's go into the second part of the book, because I found this very interesting, and I know I've been guilty of. So part 2 of the book says 25 words that can kill your chance of making a sale. And nobody wants to do that. So, oh
man, there's some in here that I'm so guilty of.
Who wants to confess first with Father Len?
I'm terrible about using. I'll be honest. I just used it. Honestly, that word is the worst. I wish I could catch myself every time I said that. But I think it's one of those words that you just kind of spit out during a conversation. And
if you got one of the watches that just gave you a little electric shock every time you said honestly or whatever, one of the honestly what?
Yeah, that would be good. Mine is I'd probably say obviously. I'd probably say, and I think it's for the same reason. It's almost like a filler word.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to gather my thoughts. So I say obviously, or whatever.
My wife did that all the time. She would say to me, well, obviously it's, and I couldn't help myself. I would say, what? Why is that obvious? I've never heard that before. Why is that obvious? How is that obvious? And I go, well, it is.
So are you still married?
No, it's not. Yeah. We didn't. We very rarely argued over things, but something like that. And it became so obvious to me that people would say that, and when they got no foundation to say it was obvious. And that's why I noticed that people tended to frown on that. It was almost by saying, well, you're stupid if you don't know this.
Yeah.
When you're telling someone, it's obvious, like, well, everybody knows this, but you. Well, all right. So that was why it was one of the words to cut out wherever you can.
Yeah, politicians are very good at that. They use that. If you notice interviews a lot, they They use those filler words like obviously or
So then,
Yeah,
yeah. So there's some other ones
yeah,
that are
I,
probably a little more shocking to people on here, or they were to me, because especially in certain circles, you're told to use these words.
yeah.
For instance, warranty.
Oh yeah.
Yes, tell me a little bit about that one. And I'm
would say
curious, is guarantee and warranty the same thing, or is guarantee okay?
guarantee and warranty can be the same thing, but they're not the same thing to people hearing.
Okay.
When you say to someone, there's a guarantee, it's a solid piece of information. That's how it's perceived.
Okay.
You have a guarantee for 6 months that if you don't like this, you can refund. When you say something's warranted for 6 months, you have a 6 month warranty. It does not carry the same kudos, the same strength, the same power with it, and that's why it's like saying instead of uh, I've written a book. It's like saying I've written a booklet, and all of a sudden your book, its gravity just went.
Yeah.
But a booklet, people imagine as something really small and not. A book is a different thing entirely, and that's how warranty and guarantee come about. People see a
Well,
warranty, they just don't associate it with anything that's safe, if you will. And there's quick one on that. There are so many sales lost because of that safety factor. I have things I've taught people with SAS, and it's not special air service, but SAS was safety after sale. If you can prove to people they will be safe in your hands once the sale's made, you can improve your close rate. Because a lot of the time, people are scared to death that once they've got the card out, and once they literally have signed on the dotted line, they'll never see you again, never be able to get in touch with you again. And so that safety after sale, it gives them that peace of mind, and it just knocks another barrier over to entry, to actually saying, yeah, okay, fine, I'm in. And
and how do
especially
you?
when you're dealing with things like coaching and stuff like that, where it's a very one-to-one kind of thing, and that works out with customer experience as well as to that. So it's like you wouldn't go and date someone, go with them for a while, get engaged, get married, and then in the bridal suite after, they both of you walk in, and then you hand over and say, "By the way, he's Dave. He'll take care of you from now on." That's kind of not what that's that's not, that's not the handover you were looking for, is it? At all? You're like,
No,
like, on the other hand, it may be like, "Oh, hi, Dave," but the thing is, it's that safety after sale that carry on the SAS principle, as I call it.
So how do you?
And
How do you actually create that? Let's say that you're in a sales position where you do hand over, like your job is sales, and you're
yep,
going to hand over to implementation. How do you create that safety after the sale so that you can increase your close rate?
yeah, it's it's fairly easy, to be honest with you. Um, the thing is, first of all, you bring in the other party that's going to be taking care of them at an earlier stage, and
Okay.
point out that you work with this person, you have, so therefore the if you will, the prospect knows that there's a relationship between the two of you. It's not like they're in one department and you, and it's how you describe them. You could say after sales department, and that's terrible, but you could say after sales, the care department, sales care department. You can use that type of thing, the care department, customer care department, and this is the guy that will take you through for the rest. But bear in mind, I'm always available. You've got my card. I am always available, just in
Okay.
case.
Yeah.
And so by doing that, there's a peace of mind. They now recognize the person who they're going to be seeing from now on. They also did that while you were there. So now we get this friendly thing going on. You've also said, just in case, you've always got my number anyway. So that from in the head kind of thing, that makes everything a lot easier. That transition a lot easier. So yeah, that's how I would use that.
No, that makes sense, and I know I've done that just kind of subconsciously, but I know I could do that a lot more intentionally as well. Just I mean, that next person is not always available, but I'm sure there's ways we could facilitate some of that.
Well,
So that's good to know.
well, if you're going to hand someone off, then you're going to hand them off to someone, and whether it be on a Zoom call or whatever else, it would pay if you yourself, if you're in this sort of solopreneur, whatever else, or if you're in a team, it's always going to pay to just get that person in for 30 minutes as an introduction and all this kind of thing, so someone can warm to them, get a feel for them, see a face, all that kind of thing. That just pays dividends for that thing of customer experience. Because I talked to a group of people recently, and they were talking about you've got to make sure you get your customer service right, and I said that's the last thing you need to get right, and everyone looked at me as if I'd lost it. And I pointed out that the only time most of the time customer service comes in is when something's gone wrong. But customer experience, that starts before the sale, during the sale, and after the sale. That's what gets you referrals and lengthens customer lifetime value. So
yeah, no, I like that. So let's talk about real quick. There's two words that are kind of similar. We've got innovative, and then we've got cutting edge. I think those kind of in the same category. So let's talk about those two.
Everyone says this is cutting edge, and because everyone's people are used to it, and so it doesn't have any effect anymore. And saying like our company is very innovative, the things we produce are very innovative. Well, that's okay, but that's talking about the company and not what the company can do for the prospect or what the prospect is going to get from it. Saying you're innovative without tagging something on the end of it, at least, whereas by the prospect can see what that means to them and what the result of that, your innovation, is to them. So we're very innovative. We got a space rocket, and what's that mean? Well, it means you're going to rescue people who are stuck in space. Then fine, okay, then you've just done an Elon Musk kind of thing. But unless you can put something with it, it means nothing. So you kind of wasted a word, wasted a sentence trying to impress someone, and potentially you've just made yourself look like everybody else.
It's just lazy, right? It's just kind of lazy.
Well, everybody tells you they're good and tells you the product's good and the company's good. Nobody turns around and goes, actually, yeah, we're really good, but to be honest with you, we're a bit cheap. No one says that, do they?
Yeah.
You know, it's a great car, but it does not eat juice. They'll just tell you the performance is great, from 0 to 60 is great, but not that you need to fill up every 10 miles kind of thing. It's so yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan, do you have any more in that list? And then we'll move on to the two words that we promised at the top of the show.
No, the cutting edge thing is really, if I ever hear that nowadays, it's just like I tune out immediately because
AI is quickly becoming that way too. Like AI now with, our service now has AI or AI enabled. That's quickly becoming the same thing.
Yep.
When you ask, or put anything into AI and say, write me an article on so on and so forth, 500 words on Twitter. And if it's anything to do with sales, business, and whatever else, it always starts off in today's competitive marketplace. Every single time, today's competitive, and you kind of, if you let that go, you can tell straight away where it's come from. I mean, for me, copy is a big thing. Right. It's writing copy and things like that. But you can just read something and straight away you go, yeah, I know where that's come from. That's AI generated. And you can even tell when it's chat or when it's Claude. because the Claude's better for writing and kind of thing, but you can still tell if
Yeah. Because
and if people can tell, so can
it's going to use
Google.
cliches
So
and things like that people use, and people are just tired of that. One that I noticed, and this is the last one on my list, is opportunity, because to me that's still kind of one of those words where used in the right context, it can be good, but I can see why it can also be a negative as well.
Well, my friend who pounces on people and tries to close them instantly would use that. And this is a business opportunity, and
That's
you
a bad
really need. And straight away, it's like, you might be talking
ground
to
floor
someone. It's like,
opportunity.
yeah, and it's like, so you're selling an opportunity. So that's an opportunity to do something that you don't know of yet.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity. It's not, this is what's going to be great for you, because it's just, this opportunity is fantastic. So straight away, do you want money from me to invest in it? What's the time it takes? There's all sorts of things that can put you off with that, and especially with the opportunity of a lifetime. That's as bad as cutting edge.
Yeah. I think that, to me, that's hyperbole. I mean, I try to use opportunity where it's in the sense of, I think that there is an opportunity for us to work together with other businesses. If there's a mutual fit, in a way, I think that there's maybe an okay way, but yeah, I mean, the hyperbole and the,
so you noticed in the, not to say the word problem is in there.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah. So the thing is, when you given the opportunity, when you talk to someone, you say your problem is, that's like, well, that comes over as having the finger pointed at you. Your problem is your website doesn't attract leads. It's this. Yeah. Well, it may be that they created the website, or their brother or sister did, so that's not good. But when you say the challenge you have is with this, and our opportunity here is, you've pointed a challenge. People rise to challenges and run away from problems. So you use challenge, which is a rise to word rather than run away from word. And when you throw in our opportunity here is, you've just put your arms around them and said it's us. Our opportunity here is to correct this. We can do it in maybe 2 weeks, and the leads will start. So you can sort of use it in that way, and that works. That works fine.
Yeah, when you were talking about like the wrong way to use opportunity, the first thing that came to my mind was like this scene from Elf when he sees World's Best Coffee and he runs in and he's like, "You did it! Congratulations, World's Best Coffee!" So
yeah, this is
same kind of vibe,
Yep, same kind of vibe, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Excuse me.
Well, Len, tell us, so we don't forget, tell us about the 2 words that you kind of teased at the beginning of the show.
Okay. For me, these 2 words are massive, in a sense that not a lot of people use them. And when they do, it's half-hearted rather than genuine. And it's just the 2 words of thank you. It can have such an impact on people, and you can do it in so many different ways. The obvious way is thank you. And by the way, thank you works better than thanks. Believe it or not, it's taken as more heartfelt of thank you than thanks. You can use it with a handshake and all sorts of things. But here's the thing: when I was doing sales workshops, the people who've been on the workshops and things like this, or when I had meetings with people who said they were going to sign up for the workshop, I would send them a card. Most people nowadays send emails, and the problem with sending emails to say thank you, the gestures there.
Yeah.
But here's the problem: as you know, an inbox fills up really quickly, and you may send your email, and if you're not marketing inclined or copy inclined, your subject line probably isn't going to be that outstanding. It's not going to stand out to anyone. They won't think to maybe put an emoji right at the start of the subject line so it sticks out in the inbox. Probably not going to do that at all. So the thing is, your email goes in there, your thank you email, and all of a sudden things start piling up on top. And then people go into delete mode and then click on delete, delete, delete. They may just look at yours. You could be a headline similar to it. They delete that, and all of a sudden you never said thank you in the first place. However, with a thank you card, a simple thank you card, when you send that, you stand out. And this isn't just me saying this. I've had so many people say this to me in the past. You send a thank you card in an envelope, a handwritten envelope, not one that's printed to look handwritten, but a handwritten envelope. And then I've always used a first class stamp. And I've never used a second class stamp or franking, as we call it. And because I always want the recipient to sort of feel first class as against second class, and even just a stamp with works like that. And incidentally, I tested different kind. This is because I'm kind of test and measured, sort of anal. I tested and measured colours of envelopes on which I got the most back from, and that envelope, that colour, that worked the best. The orange,
That's
as
orange.
over against white, over against blue,
Tennessee
so on and
orange.
so forth. But it did. So the thing is, you send out the thank you card, and the thank you card, this is one I used to use, and it just literally just says thank you on my name, thank you. And inside it's plain. And again, it reiterates.
Oh, that's great. I love
big
that
thank you.
picture. That
Yeah.
is cool. How did you have that done,
Well,
by the way?
I didn't take this, believe it. Well, I didn't take this. I had a friend of mine, Brett Trafford. His name is Brett Trafford Photography. He came to our house and did a series of photos. But the reason, this is again the test and measure, believe it or not, the reason for this is because this suit, this color, and that shirt, collarless shirt, proved to be the best stage wear when in surveys and things like that, because I actually asked people. That's why it was done like that. But when you do that and you write in there, hi Jonathan, great to meet you today. Really enjoyed our meeting. Looking forward to working together.
Yeah.
Thanks a bunch, Len. That's it. Nothing salesy whatsoever. Nothing whatsoever. A lot of people put contact details on the card. I don't. And there's a reason for that. Because I always put a business card inside. So that goes inside the envelope, the business card with it. And the reason this is like that is because it stands up. This will stand up
Oh, it does.
in an office, on a shelf, desk. If you do it like that, eventually gravity happens and it starts to go down. And then it looks annoying and a nuisance and scruffy. People throw it away. This way, it just stays there forever, as long as, and people don't give it away because it hasn't got contact details on. But if they've got a spare business card and someone comes in and they see that and say, "Oh, you got a fan?" Who's say, "Oh, it's this guy I did some sales training with. It was really good. You might want to give that a look at yourself. Have you got any details?" "Yeah, I've got a business card." Give the business card away. And then if I get a phone call, I always say, "Where'd you hear about me?" If they say it was from such and such a body, I'll then give them a call, say, "Thanks ever so much for the referral. Would you mind if I sent you another couple of cards?" Never had anyone saying no. So it goes on. And I've got an advert in their office ongoing. Nice. And that's how that works with a thank you card.
I love that approach. Yeah. I have some monogrammed stationery that I keep on hand. I keep it on hand every time that I just, it's got my name. It doesn't have doesn't have the picture. Like, I love the image that you've got on there. But mine, it's got my my signature at the bottom. And so I'll just fill it out, and it's got, it's customized for me. But
Well, believe
I
it
try
or
to
not,
send those out to people all the time, if I'm following up, it just like a simple thank you. And most people don't do that.
no, that's just it. It makes you stand out.
Yeah,
In a crowded place, it stands out by doing something really simple. And very quickly, you can also do this in a slightly different way, which hardly anyone I've ever spoken to does, and it works really well. This is in a business sense, like an office.
yeah,
But if you were selling insurance, or if you were doing landscaping at someone's home, for example, and that kind of thing, when you finish the job and they're entirely happy with it, and they're really, really pleased with it and all this kind of thing, normal thing is to leave them with a business card just in case.
right.
So I told people and said, don't do that, because a business card is a little thin piece of cardboard and it gets lost and it goes down the side of the sofa and in a drawer and things get put on top of it. What you do instead is, and it costs you buttons money in the UK, is you buy fridge magnets. You've seen the fridge magnets that go on it, yeah?
Oh yeah.
Using from holiday. Fridge magnet with thank you on and your details. And you explain to people, especially like if you were selling insurance, they've just insured the house or life insurance or whatever else, just in case you ever need to get in touch with me. I know normally you would receive a business card, but in this case, can I just give you this instead? Because as we both know, business cards get lost. But if you just stick this on your fridge, you can't miss it. You'll always got my number. It's right there. But what that does is it puts an advert on their fridge. And when friends and relatives come down, somebody says, have you got a drink of juice or something? Yeah, help yourself. It's in the fridge. They could have magnets on there from European holidays, from Florida, from wherever else. And all of a sudden, the curiosity thing applies with, why have you got a thank you magnet, fridge magnet? What's that? Oh, it's this guy that did insurance for us, the guy that did all the landscaping. We did a really great job. You just may get a referral from that. But it's a very simple thing of saying thank you, but also getting an advertisement in someone's home.
Yeah, well, it also, it occurs to me, it's also the safety after the sale thing you were talking about earlier, because now they have a
You can
easy way to,
always get in touch with me. There's my
yeah,
name,
Yep.
no problem whatsoever.
yeah,
So it kills quite a few birds with one stone, so to speak.
yeah. That's very cool. Right. Well, Len, this is good stuff. I'm sure we could go on for forever, but we're about at our time. So
Okay.
where can people learn more about you? What's the best place to learn about you?
Best place, to be honest with you, is right at this moment in time, for the things I do, is a free newsletter that I write, personally write, which is called the Referral Edge, and that's also part of the consulting as well. But the newsletter is written by me. It does one thing: it identifies the problem for people in the service sector, especially in the health sector, gives a solution or solutions to it and a place to start, and that's at the referraledge.com/subscribe. Free newsletter comes out once a week on a Thursday, but its sole purpose is not to give loads of curated stuff and things like this, is just to exactly that, is literally, here's a problem, this is a solution to it, or solutions, and this is exactly where you start to put this into practice. That's what it's there for. That's me. Yep.
All right. I'm going to
That's
drop
my
that
headline.
Cool. I'm going to drop that in the comments on YouTube and Facebook and
Yep.
Twitch and X and all the places there.
Yeah.
So people can see that. Yeah, it's the referraledge.com/subscribe. Referral, for those of you who have trouble spelling like I do, has 2 R's in it. And 1 F. 1 F, 2 R's. The Referral Edge.
Not 2 F's, 1 R.
Right.
1 F, 2 R's.
1 F, 2 R's, because I had to double check like 6 times before I wrote it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right,
Great.
man.
That's good. Yeah, we'll put that on the show page. Len, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a been a pleasure having you on today.
Okay, thank you.
People can, I guess the best place that people can find your book is probably just grab it on Amazon. It's it.
Get it on Amazon, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best place to get it. And if people want to get in touch with me, there's always LinkedIn,
Right.
as well as I've got a LinkedIn profile. You can find me on LinkedIn. No problem at all.
Yeah, and the book is only at least here in the US, it's $7.99 on for a paperback version on Amazon. So super cheap. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Quick read.
Yep.
Great reference though. It's one of those books like
leave it on your desk.
Yeah, you just keep it on your desk and you just refer back to it.
Yeah,
refer back from time to time, and
it's not like this thick kind of thing, so you got to wade through and have little sticky notes sticking out. I mean, that's just look at the table of contents. You can pick something and just fine. That's but yeah, it's been great being on. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Yeah, I put your book on with the what is the book Words That Sell? There's like 1 or 2 volumes of those. So
yep.
Oh yeah,
your book goes right in with that, Len.
Yeah. It's good to use this also, like, if you are using a lot of AI, it would be a good tool to do your final pass and do some edits and edit out the deal break, the the bad words, and then put in some of the other words.
Yeah, we got a quick sort of check if you put things in that break the context of what you're saying or make you look, like I said, like everyone else. Sort of, they read something they've read before. Brain-wise, you're like the person that they read it from before. People associate that. That's just what they do.
Absolutely. So, all right, well, Len, we're going to put you in the green room for a second while we wrap up, and then we'll come back to you. And
that's brilliant. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, Len. Hang tight. We'll come back to you here in about 30 seconds.
Okay. Bye now.
That was good stuff.
Yeah, sometimes there's some good nuance in that. And I think it's easy to overlook some of this stuff, but it's like the fundamentals thing. Like, you got to get back to the fundamentals, and you got to kind of be reminded of some of this stuff. That's, that little 1% here, 1% there makes all the difference.
Yeah, I make a ton of these mistakes. I just realized reading those words to avoid. I'm like, oh shit. I'm using a lot of these words, and I shouldn't be.
Yep. So, all right, now you got something to work on next week when you go back out in the field.
Go. So, WonderWords. Yeah, you can check it out. Amazon, get a copy. It's worth the read. It's very fast. You can read them like an hour. And like I said, it's a great little reference to refer back to, or like take some of these and just put it in your like Apple, your little notes app, of like words that I need to use, and then words that I like really need to avoid that I have a tendency to use. So so check it out. We'll have the link on the show page this week, episode 392, I believe. Yeah, 392. persuasionbythepint.com. Sean, it's been fun, man. You can find us on all of your podcast channels, and we'll see you guys all next week.
See ya.